Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining and coming to another episode and edition of the Spin Zone. So, Spin Doc here with you, and no virtual background today. I finally got my new office set up. So, for those of you that have seen me broadcast for a while, you'll see the familiar Bucks logo behind me now. So, finally got that set up and done. So. Brand new display here, but we are there's a lot more pitchers today, a lot more potential good spots than there was yesterday. Yesterday was kind of a bleh day. um, there were a few good spots, which I'll talk about in a second when we get to what we learned. But before we get going, if you could please give the video a like. Please subscribe to the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. We do appreciate the support. Helps get our message and info out there. And if you're not already, please follow me at SpinDoc Sports on X. So yesterday, some weather situations, some delays. They actually managed to get the Yankees and the Padres game in. So that they got the game in, but they did play it. I thought a little bit differently than they would have had the weather not been a factor. But we'll talk about what we learned yesterday. So first and foremost is for the Yankees. I talked about how if this game was going to be played in any capacity as a normal game, normal start time, normal everything, then you should look to take Rodon's over. Rodon pitched 6 2/3 innings, 5 Ks, but part of that was because there was a 56-minute delay to start the game. And this is what happens when you have delays and you have teams that obviously because they know they're going to play the next day, is you play a little bit of turbo baseball. And so the game itself, there was a lot more pitch to contact by Rodon, actually by both pitchers, than there would have been otherwise. And without the 56-minute delay, this game would have been one of the shortest games of the night. So the delay factors into the total time, but this game would have been under 2 hours. And what that means is, like I talked about, when you have a rain delay, sometimes is you play what's called turbo baseball. And so you get a lot of pitch to contact, a lot of try to get through, not necessarily get through the game, but you see a lot less focus on, studying and going K hunting in certain spots, and, really just a lot less analytical approach, which is exactly what happened, because most games last night were in the 2:05 to 2:30 range. And again, without the delay, this game was under 2 hours. So they did kind of play speed baseball yesterday. So the other one that I want to talk about was if you played it, I said I had a heavy lean on the under. The Dodgers just obliterated Sandy again, only 4 Ks, so the under hit. And 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed. They are just the kryptonite for this man. Even before the injury, they were. If they happen to see each other again down the road, you can almost automatically look at Sandy's earn runs over, because it just seems to hit every single time he gets these guys. Sandy pitched how he has been this year. I wouldn't necessarily say that he pitched bad. It's just that the Dodgers offense just has exactly what the kinds of things that do him harm. And that's exactly what they did yesterday. So if you played that under, you hit. And then last but not least, I see Roger already said it in the chat. And good morning to Roger. Thanks so much for joining and being here. Reagans, oh my goodness. So, that happens too when a guy comes back from injury. When a guy comes back like that, that can happen, is that he comes back and he's his usual self. So, I had talked about how if we wanted to play Reagans, pull him down to a 5.5 or 6+ and pair him with something else. And so obviously, if you did that, basically anything that you played on Cole Ragans last night won. His velo looked good. His form looked good. The White Sox had no clue, and he looked like he was back. So me personally, I never worry about those situations and never look at it as, oh, I lost potential for money. I look at it as I took a free lesson and I saw that he was back. And, the only other thing that I guess I might say to that is that, I mean, they were certainly trying to make you pay up if you wanted to be on the over in that game. And that was a situation where in those spots, it's usually just not worth it to me to try to risk like minus 155, minus 160, somewhere in that range for a guy where he could come back and do what Ragans did, or he could come back and pitch 4 or 5 innings and then get pulled with an early pitch count. You never know. But Ragans, I think, is back. So I think that the next time that we have Ragans on the mound, then there's really no other option but to just look at him as you normally would. So for me, Ragans is now fully, quote unquote, back. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball, across the rest of the league, not a whole lot going on. You did the only other one, because we hit it in VIP, that I just wanted to talk about was Bryce Miller just isn't getting it done this year. His fastball still has the velo. It's still got 95. His breaking stuff he was all over the place last night. He's really struggled in spots on the road this year. He didn't walk anybody, but he did hit Rooker and on a really scary pitch, actually hit him in the head. Thankfully, Rooker was fine. The helmet took the impact, but his breaking stuff was all over the place. And what it caused was a lot of 2 and 3, a lot of hitters counts, and a lot of 3-ball counts, which then he would have to throw his fastball. And his fastball this year really isn't anything special. So Bryce Miller is a guy that I'm probably looking to potentially fade when he's on the road. They dropped his line yesterday. They dropped his outs. They upped his hits. Everything just said that he was going to get absolutely kind of tossed around, and that's exactly what he was. The other thing is, with that in mind, is that the books are starting to catch up. Some of the public is starting to catch up too, but there's still a little bit of value left on the Athletics. You think about the Athletics, and obviously you think about some of the horrible years they've had, and they left Oakland and all that stuff, and playing to empty stadiums and kind of the poverty franchise. They're not a poverty franchise this year. I mean, they're obviously in second place in the West, but they have a lot of nice young pieces. And they have a lot of high contact guys. So they are a team where in VIP, I know we've hit 2 straight unders in a row on them. And I think 3 out of the last 4 we've hit of games that they've been in. So the Athletics are a team that I'm actively looking for from an unders perspective, because they have a lot of high contact guys on that team, and a lot of guys that make good 2-strike contact. So, but Bryce Miller only struck out 1 guy and never really came close to doing anything from a strikeout perspective, put himself in bad positions all night. So when he's at home, it's a little bit of a different animal, but when he's on the road, we've talked about some pitchers that are just different when they're on the road from a strikeout perspective. Dylan Cease is one. Christopher Sanchez is another. I think you can definitely add Bryce Miller to that list as well. So not a whole lot of other stuff going on. Not a whole lot of other stuff going on across the diamond last night. There was one rain out and a couple other delays and stuff. So we will get into the business for the day. But before we do that, good morning to Mario. Thank you for being here as always. And yes, let's have a great day. Mom Who Bet's always here. Good morning. And shout out to you as well. Shout out to Go Get 'em. Good morning to you, my guy. And saying, looking at Evaldi and Mr. King today. All right, we can talk about those after, because they are actually not on either of the, they're actually not of either of the any of the 3 that I'm talking about here, but we can certainly get to them at the end. And Eric, good morning to you as well. And let's get it. I agree. All right. let's get on with it. I have the swing chart, which is updated as of yesterday. So all these metrics are for the last 14 days through yesterday. And the first pitcher that we are going to talk about is close to home for me. So Pablo Lopez striking guys out at a 23.2% clip, little skewed because he missed some time due to injury. Only walking guys at a 3.6% clip. He gets the Orioles tonight. This game is at 6:40 Eastern time, and we have a medium, light to medium juiced over 5.5 with a slight plus money under. All right, Pablo Lopez. So Pablo Lopez, as I said, did miss some time due to injury, and he did miss a couple starts, but is back in the fold. He started on April 8th, then missed a couple, and then didn't return until April 25th. Since then, he's had 2 games where he's had 6 strikeouts in both games, and has allowed basically right at where all of his other props are tonight. So 2 earned runs in both. His outs have kind of fluctuated, but they are holding steady tonight at a 17.5. Pretty heavily juiced towards the over. So Pablo Lopez, first things first, is that he does have some good history against this projected Orioles lineup. 52 plate appearances and 18 Ks for a 34.6% K percentage. So good history, and he gets them at home. So the other thing with Pablo is that so far this year, he is in the zone a little bit more than he has been in years past, at about 50% exactly. Now, 2 things. One is he's not allowing chase contact when guys do chase, which is slightly down from the previous seasons. What he is allowing is a ton of zone contact. So he's allowing 87.3% zone contact, and that was before and after he returned. So we go over to our metrics chart here, and we see that the Orioles, not the best at zone contact, and this is held true for a lot of the year. And the other big thing here too is their chase contact has just been terrible all season. So 58.6% over the last 2 weeks. That's actually where they've been for most of the year. And they're swinging under league average and making contact under league average. So you put all of those together, and you get a very, very strong look right off the bat at an over here for Pablo. The other thing is, in this projected lineup, there are guys with more than a handful of plate appearances against him that have some decent strikeout history. Mountcastle has struck out 2 out of 5 times. Henderson, 5 out of 9. Laureano, 3 out of 8. And then you have a few other guys that have a few here and there. So really the only guy that has a lot of plate appearances against Pablo that hasn't really struck out is Adley, and he doesn't strike out usually. So I go and I look, and I want to see how often these guys chase, because if you're going to chase against Pablo, then it makes up for the zone contact that he is allowing. So I go to our projected lineup, and I do see that a good number of these guys do chase. Mountcastle chases way above league average. I see that Gunnar Henderson chases above league average. I see that if he's in, Urias chases above league average. And I also see that Kjerstad, who is projected to be in, chases way above league average and makes very little contact. Kjerstad also hasn't faced him. So right off the bat, I'm seeing 3 to 4 strikeouts here for Pablo. Now the question becomes then, obviously, can he get the other 2? So you look at Adley, not a strikeout candidate. You look at O'Hearn. O'Hearn has elite contact on both areas, and it only has 3 Ks and 11 plate appearances. That's not going to be a strikeout candidate. So you got to go and look at guys like Jackson Holliday. You have to go and look at Ced Mullins, and you have to go and look at the Mayo kid. And what I see for them is Mayo is chasing, albeit in limited sample size, a bunch, as is his zone contact is also down. So I see him as a potential strikeout. I also look and I see that Ced Mullins, despite being a low strikeout guy, is that his chase contact is under league average. And actually, It's like 3 or 4 percentage points under league average. So there are definitely 6 strikeouts to be had here. There I look at it from the standpoint of, and then this is what I always do, is that rather than looking, I look at it by team, but then you have to drill down and you have to drill down into these lineups. And I also have to see what teams chase, and how has he gotten them. So he has the Guardians, who make great contact when they, or make decent contact when they chase, but chase at a high rate. He got 6. I look at the Angels. We know they're horrible at everything. He got 6. I look at the Royals. Now, the Royals are a much higher contact team, but as you can see here, they do chase. He got 6. I look at the White Sox, and the White Sox don't chase. White Sox are under in chase. He got 5. Cardinals, you see, are right at league average and make elite chase contact. He got 3. Now, part of those with the White Sox and with the Cardinals, that was the start after those, he went out. So wasn't exactly at 100%. So I'm gonna give him a little grace for that. But I look and I see that teams that chase, which the Orioles have more than a few guys that do, and teams that struggle with chase contact, which is the Orioles here for sure. I just read you off the names. This to me is looking like an over spot. So we can make this an official show play. As right now, the best line I can find is FanDuel at -132. Pablo Lopez over 5.5 strikeouts, especially if he's going to go 6 innings, to ask him to get 1K an inning against this team coming in on the road. I can go with that. I can live with that. So Pablo Lopez, very, very strong lean, if not an actual show free play on the over 5.5. Cover Kings, welcome in, my guy, saying his zone contact scares me. Yep. I mean, it's up there, but yeah, it took him 5.5. And also Cover Kings is on Tyler Anderson for the Angels, under 3.5 at -115. All right, we'll get to him, and we'll get to Eovaldi and King in just a moment. So Pablo Lopez, pretty clear look at the over here. Speaking of guys where you normally only look at the over, we got Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler just keeps rolling, striking guys out at a 32.8% clip, only walking guys at 5.2%. He gets the Rays tonight, and this game goes at 7:05 Eastern, and we have, as you would expect, a reasonably heavy juiced over 6.5 with a plus money under 6.5. All right, so before we get into anything else, the one thing with Wheeler is that he's going to throw 100 pitches. Like, they're going to let him go. They're going to let him get 100 pitches. He's going to have runway. Even if he's getting smacked around, he's normally going 90 to 100 pitches. It happens every start. He's also been on a roll to any of these numbers. He's only failed to hit it. He's only failed to hit 7+ one time, and that was against the Cardinals, who are one of the most anti-K teams in the league. His outs are at an 18.5 as usual. Heavier juice on the under this time. Normally when he's at home, you see it on the over. This time you see it on the under. Walks and hits 4.5, 1.5, earned runs 1.5. Those are all pretty standard. So you got so with Wheeler is that Wheeler is in the zone 52.8% of the time. But with the velocity and with the spin that he throws on his fastball, he gets guys in the zone. So his chase and zone contact marks are just elite. So I do look at zone contact for Wheeler when I'm looking to potentially run him on a big number, especially on the road. So I go over to the Rays, and I see over the last few weeks, they do have a decent zone contact, and they do swing more in the zone. So those two things kind of negate each other out. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that while there's only 35 plate appearances that Wheeler has against this projected lineup, he does only have 8 Ks, so 22.9% K rate. It's not something that I'm using to think like oh, okay, I have to like total, like big time factor this in. But just because 35 is probably, it's like a game, maybe game and a half. Maybe he's faced these guys twice. So there's not a whole lot of guys on this Rays team that he has faced a bunch. So far, for in the guys that are in the projected lineup, the only real guys that he's faced more than a few times are Brandon Lowe. He's gotten him 4 out of 14 times. Yandy Diaz doesn't strike out to anybody, 1 out of 7. And then everybody else, it's just a smantering. It's like 2, 3, 2. So you can't really draw a whole lot from that. But what I am looking at with this projected lineup, which is 4 lefties, 5 righties, is I'm looking at zone swing and I'm looking at zone contact. So when I look at, especially at the bottom part of the lineup, because one site that I use for projected lineups does not have Christopher Morel in, one does. And I will tell you, if Christopher Morel is in, then you can basically just add a strikeout to the total. Wheeler's gotten him 3 out of 10 times. His zone contact is under league average. He chases above league average, and his chase contact is just god awful atrocious, 31.9%. That's for reasonably everyday players. That's one of the worst marks among hitters. It's bad. So Wheeler can easily get him if he's in. That's actually a 2 strikeout candidate. The other guy that happens to be in that I would love to see in the projected lineup that I would love to see in tonight, and again, he's in one but not in the other one, is Jose Caballero. Jose Caballero, zone swing, doesn't swing in the zone a lot, doesn't make contact when he does, and his chase is about average and his chase contact is under 50%. So if those two are in, even there if they're at the bottom, that can be 3 strikeouts right there for Wheeler. And what that really does is that completely negates Yandy on the other side, who is a dead spot. Brandon Lowe, I've talked about. He can get Brandon Lowe. His zone contact is under as well. Then he gets a couple guys that he hasn't really seen a whole lot. Aranda's zone contact is under, and you also have Caminero is projected to be in. His zone contact is good, and Cameron Misner, who is also projected to be in both lineups, his zone contact is average. So for me, for Wheeler, I want to wait for what the lineup brings, because there are a few other guys that the Rays can put in at the end of this lineup that would, I don't know if it would make me like not play it at all, but it might make me look to want to like combine him with something or maybe play him in a different way. So like Travis Jankowski would be one of them. Jankowski, outstanding zone contact at 88.6%. He also doesn't chase, so very disciplined at the plate. One site has him in, one doesn't. So if you're going to have him in instead of, say, Morel or Caballero, then that changes things considerably for me. So for me, for Wheeler, it's a lean on the over. I want to see a lineup. I especially want to see both Morel and Caballero in this lineup. If we get that, and if Jankowski and I'm trying to think of the other guy that would be out for the other, or that would be in for the other one. I think it was Taylor Walls, who has decent contact. Yeah, it's Walls. One has Walls and Jankowski in. The other one has Morel and Caballero. If you get the one with Morel and Caballero, this is a clear over spot, and this might even be like a slight like +1 ladder spot, because those guys can just be walking strikeouts against Wheeler. If it's Walls and Jankowski, I'm not sure I'd be willing to pay up on the road for the 6.5. Might want to pair it with something else to get the juice down. So that's kind of how I see Wheeler. It's really just those kind of last in the rotational kind of revolving spots for the Rays. If they're going to have the first 2 in, then it's all systems go. If they have one and not the other, then I can see the juice kind of leveling off. And then that might be a time where you might want to look to maybe just pull them down one and play it, because like I said, Caballero and Morel can both easily strike out multiple times against this man. So that's Zach Wheeler. last but not least is a guy that I'm going to talk about, but he's on timeout for a while. Paul Skeens. He's on timeout for me. I need to see what kind of pitcher he's going to be this year. And so he's striking guys out at 24.8%, which is not the number that I'm sure anybody, including like ESPN, expected to see next to Paul Skeens' name. So only walking people at a 4.8 clip, and he gets the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, obviously, as I talked about earlier, are the antithesis, kind of like the elixir for Ks. The line is set as exactly as I thought it would be. You got decent plus money on the over 6.5, and you got big juice on the under 6.5. And so I'm just going to tell you straight off the bat, this is a complete stay off spot for me. But if you are interested in playing Paul Skeens, let me go over a few things with you about him. So when Paul Skeens has faced low K and high zone contact teams, it hasn't been pretty. So Cubs, he got 2 against. I got burned on that one. The Guardians, I stayed way away from him. He got 4. He did get the Cardinals for 7 earlier this year, but that was at home. And he also at home failed to meet his line against the Nationals, who also, as you see here, not the best swing metrics overall, but they do make zone contact at a decent rate. So Paul Skeens on the road. I don't know. It goes back to what I talked about before with how he's pitching this year, is that he's getting a lot more zone swing, and he's just not getting guys to miss on his chase stuff as much as he was last year. Chase contact last year was 53.5%. It's up to 58 this year. So it's not that there's anything fundamentally wrong with the way Skeens is pitching. It's just that he's not actively going K hunting as previous years. He's still throwing his sweeper a lot more this year versus his curveball. Last year, the curveball was 10.8% of his total. This year, it's down to 5.7. Last year, the sweeper was 10%. This year, it's up to 13.3%. The sweeper does not have the same whiff rate as the curve, and has not throughout the course of his career. The sweeper is more of a pitch that has induced weak contact versus that has induced misses. The curveball has carried a 33.3% whiff rate versus a 27.8 on the sweeper, but guys are batting 286 on the curve. So when they get a hold of it, and there's actually some good ISO numbers, they're actually hitting it at a decent rate. Batting average on the sweeper is 0.056. So the sweeper has been an out pitch for him, but it's not a strikeout pitch. There's actually some really, really good weak contact metrics on that sweeper, which if we're looking at it on our clock, is that the sweeper goes over here in the 11 to 8 range, fastball and splitter over here in the 1 to 3, 1 to 4 sometimes range. So because of the use of the splitter this year, his ERA and a lot of his other metrics, like whip, batting average allowed, etc., are just fine. It's just that it's just not a strikeout pitch. It's more of a weak contact pitch. So he gets the Cardinals here, and the Cardinals. Oh man. This is a high contact team across this lineup. You can see here 70% chase contact over the last few weeks, number 1 in baseball by a pretty comfortable margin. They have a low zone swing rate, but you can see the contact rate when they do. And the other thing that I look for which is what Skeens typically needs to get a lot of Ks, is swinging strikes, an 8.3% swinging strike rate. You think about in 2 weeks, over the course of games, how many pitches this team see, because team average is about 37.5 plate appearances per game. There's about 4.2, 4.3 pitches per plate appearance on average. So you do all that math through the entire game, and then you think on only 8.3% of those pitches are the Cardinals whiffing. That's incredible. That is a phenomenal number. So This is one where if you're going to play this one, personally, I would just leave it alone. I would just let it be because it's a huge juiced number. And I don't want to be caught, like, especially not betting it now. I don't want to be caught if the Cardinals happen to put a few, because they do have a few, like their regular lineup is a clear under spot. I don't want to be caught where they put a few poverty guys in there, and now all of a sudden you're flirting with disaster about paying minus 155. Over just can't be an option here. Not on the road, not with how he's been striking guys out. I don't care that he got 7 last time. That was at home. What I do care about is the usage of this sweeper versus his curveball and what that means. And that means more weak contact, less strikeouts. So pitching like pitching just fine from an overall like MLB pitcher perspective, not necessarily from a strikeouts perspective. So I'm going to leave Paul Skeens alone. If you're going to play him, I would look to pair the under if once you make sure that the Cardinals lineup is what is the projected right now, which should be their normal lineup. Yeah. Nootbaar, Wynn, Donovan, Arenado, Contreras, Burleson, Walker, Pegas, and Scott. That would be their normal lineup. If that's what their lineup is, then I would look to pair the under with something else and get some plus money on it. Or it doesn't cost anything to just leave it alone and just watch. All right. So that's going to do it for the 3 that I wanted to cover. We have other looks of a bunch of guys that got asked about. So I'm going to go to all those in the order in which they were given. So go get him saying, looking at Eovaldi and Mr. King. So Michael King getting the Yankees on the road. King has been, I've talked about this, about how he doesn't have an overpowering fastball, great changeup. Doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff that you would look at. To me, when I look at like his his base metrics and say like, man, that's some strikeout stuff, but he just gets it done. He just gets it done, averaging 6.5 strikeouts a game. His outs, everything else is set pretty normally with the Yankees. What I always look for with the Yankees is how often are you going to be in the zone, because they don't chase, so you don't want to put yourself out of a game. And there's also a few guys in their lineup, while their team zone contact is above league average, they do have a number of guys who can be gotten if you throw in the zone. But King also has hit 7+ Ks in 3 of his last 4 and 5 of his last 7. And then Eovaldi gets the return to Boston. And so with the whole team, the old team thing. Now, one thing is that there is rain for this game. I don't know if it's going to impact the actual game itself, but there is an 84% chance of rain for this one. The forecast right now show the heavier stuff is holding just off of Boston. Light rain close to the ballpark. I don't know if that's going to hold, but so this one might start late, or they might play through some light rain. But if you're looking at an over, that rain can actually favor the pitcher. Makes it harder to see, harder to grip a bat, harder to get the swing around, make contact, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Eric asking, how do you feel about Chris Sale? I'm disappointed in him, just like he's disappointed in himself. But that said, is that, I mean, he is just coming off just murking the Rockies. And so if you are playing him, it will be over or nothing. There are a number of guys in their projected lineup that have some pretty gaudy whiff rates to a slider, which is Sale's primary pitch. I also look at the overall called strike and whiff percentage for the Reds over the last couple of weeks is above league average. So if you're playing Sale, especially at home, you gotta look over. You gotta look over or nothing. I do want to see a lineup before I make any decisions, though. Roger asking, how about Jackson Jobe against the dreaded Rockies? I am just not touching Jackson Jobe for a while. This guy just can't get people to miss. He's He can't get people to miss, man. And he's got all the intangibles. I mean, he's one of their top prospects, but just not getting the strikeouts. And even against the Rockies, I just, I, while there's part of me that every day just wants to go find whoever's starting against the Rockies and just blast them and just take the over because their swing metrics are so bad. This dude's allowing like almost 85% contact rate in the zone. He's throwing in the zone right at average, and he's not making guys chase. His stuff just doesn't make guys go fishing. And one of the big reasons behind that is his slider on our clock runs from like the 12 to 9 range. And if you look at a spray chart for his pitches, when he misses, I mean, he misses bad. Even a team as poor as the Rockies can avoid that. His four-seam fastball, I mean, it's got good velo. I mean, he throws it with heat, but it's only got an 8.8% whiff rate. So guys can hit heat. What they can't hit is heat that has spin and movement. And his fastball, unfortunately, does not have a whole ton of movement yet. I think that it's probably just still a little too early in his career for me to try to rely on him, even against a team that is as hideous as the Rockies. Seth Lugo versus the White Sox. Yeah, the number was weird to me. I know I actually had that one potentially pegged this morning. The 4.5 was a little weird to me when his outs are up at 18.5. Normally I would expect it, even with Lugo, to see it at a 17.5. Even juice to the over. But when I see an 18.5 with only 4.5 against a team like this, what that tells me is that this might be a game where he's going to go like 7 innings and have like maybe 4, maybe 5 strikeouts. So if you can pull it down with something and get like 4 plus strikeouts against somebody in some pair with something else, that might work. But I also look at past history and I see that Benintendi 0 Ks and 8 plate appearances, Vaughn 0 and 9, Taylor is only 3 for 11. You got a couple other guys that have 0 and 3. The other thing is, and I have no science or information to like back this up, but I also tend not to try to play a team on an over the night after somebody just shredded them, kind of like Reagan's did last night. Even if they don't like talk about it in the dugout of the clubhouse, it's just that mental thing about like, okay, we got absolutely obliterated. And yes, it was by a much better pitcher and a much better strikeout pitcher, but it's like, okay, we're going to concentrate on making contact tonight. And Lugo is kind of a pitch to contact guy. So I would pull it down if you're doing anything, but the line, the fact that his Ks weren't at a 5.5, they were actually at a bettable over 4.5, and his outs were up, led me to maybe think that like maybe there'll be a lot of pitch to contact tonight, which is what Lugo does a lot. Slim, welcome in, my guy, saying paired the under in that game last night, got a little sweaty. Yep, little bit, and I know, and then Cover Kings want to talk about Tyler Anderson. So definitely not a strikeout pitcher at all. Gets the Blue Jays, who, as you just saw in the swing metrics chart, are one of the better contact teams in baseball. There's some good history there. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, because he's at home, you're getting it at better juice than you would. Because if this were in Toronto, you'd be getting 3.5, probably juiced at like under juiced at like -145, -150, something like that. So you get a lot better price because of the location. And yes, it is beautiful here. It is absolutely incredible here. You can see the sunlight behind me. We finally have seen the sun. It's getting up in the 80s. It's been beautiful here for a while. And Cover Kings, I know, talking about the rain. Yeah, I'm tired of the rain too. I want it to just stop. I want it to stop raining, and I want every game to go. So other than that, other games and other spots that I'm looking at here, if you're looking for a plus, if you're looking for a plus money line, the Astros at Milwaukee can make sense. Plus 102 for that one, and the other one would be not a whole. I mean, it's juiced. It opened at plus money, so you might be able to get it close to that. But this goes along the lines with what Go Get 'Em was saying about King, is that the Padres at -110 on the road. I'd still prefer it to be plus money for a road team, but those are the two that you can look at from a money line perspective. And if you are looking at a totals perspective, then I think that the Mariners and the A's are probably the one that I'm looking at the heaviest. Opened at a 9.5. It's gone up to 10 in a few places. You can still get a 9.5 in some spots, but over 9.5 on that one. And the only other one would be on, and this goes along the lines with what Go Get 'Em was saying about King as well, about having a really good start, is the Yankees team total under. You're going to have a Yankees tax anyway because they're at home. So I think you can get value there if you think that King is going to have a good start. All right, it's going to do it for today. Please, if you haven't yet, please make sure to smash the like button. Please like the video. Please subscribe to Daily Bread Network and follow me at Spin Doc Sports on X. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate Eric, Cover King, Slim, Roger, Mom Who Bets, Go Get 'Em, Mario, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Best of luck if you are tailing anything, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.